Okay, hi brothers and sisters, we're back for a look at a topic that seems to be so popular, I would say mostly with men. They tend to love to post a lot of videos on this. I've just been seeing this the last week. Jezebel! I think the video they got up now, somebody's got up, I don't know. I just happened to see it when I'm scrolling through videos on YouTube. Jezebel, the worst death in the Bible. Was it really though? And why such a focus on Jezebel? Well, I think it's to keep their idol actually in play. I think it's actually a ritual in a way. Jezebel's a ritual within inside the Bible that actually empowers the idol to keep standing in a way that, because it keeps women bowed down at the feet. That's the ritual of Jezebel. And for anybody who understands how rituals works, I don't need to explain anymore, but it can get complicated. But I do think that that's why they often harp at Jezebel. I actually had, a few years ago, I saw another video posted by another minister claiming that Jezebel was a feminist. Oh my gosh, God wouldn't want women to have rights, and yet that's exactly what the Old Testament testifies, that Baal, husband, who actually becomes your idol standing as your Lord and God, was actually after the removal of her rights. Alright? So the spirit of Jezebel, which is a woman bowed at the feet of this religious idol of man as God, is actually the harlot spirit in play. But the more they focus on that, the more she'll bow, right? Because the target is really to put all the blame on Jezebel's head. Jezebel, Baal, husband, Lord and Master. Let's look in the Old Testament, see what we can understand in the Old Testament. Let's go up here, 1 Kings chapter 16. We'll begin reading in. So this is a prophecy. So then the word of the Lord, verse 1, this is 1 Kings 16. Then the word of the Lord came to Jehu, the son of Hanani, against Baasha, saying, For as much as I exalted thee out of the dust, and made thee prince over my people Israel, and thou hast walked in the way of who? Jeroboam. And who is Jeroboam? We're going to look at him in a minute. And has made my people Israel to sin. How did they sin? How did Israel sin? We're going to pop over here right quick in Jeremiah 23. How did they sin? Among the prophets of Samaria, I saw this repulsive thing. They prophesied by Baal and led my people Israel astray. They caused them to bow to Baal. You see? And there's a better verse down here. Let me see if I can find it. I have heard what the prophets say who prophesy lies in my name. They say, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. How long will this continue in the heart of these lying prophets who's dreamed dreams? Saying, Jesus said, Father said. These are their lies in their hearts. There's also the understanding, if you've been taught lies, you're going to dream lies. Who prophesy the delusions out of their own minds. They think the dreams they tell one another will make my people forget my name, just as their ancestors forgot my name through Baal worship. Baal worship? You suppose that's what 1 Kings is talking about? Yeah, that's exactly what it's talking about. Exactly. For as much as I exalted thee out of the dust and made thee prince over my people Israel, and thou hast walked in the way of Jeroboam, and hast made my people Israel to sin, to provoke me to anger with their sins. Behold, I will take away the posterity of Baasha and the posterity of his house, and I will make thy house like the house of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. What happened to Jeroboam? Him that dieth of Baasha in the city shall the dogs eat. Oh, she had the worst death in the Bible. There was none worse than hers, Jezebel, who bowed to the idol Baal, who was husband as Lord and God. Idol worship of Jesus. Husband, bridegroom, man as God. Why would men want this? just for this exact reason. Women bowed at their feet. And why do they love to go, Jezebel had the worst, she was the worst, she was the worst? Because then you walk away with, there's nothing any more wicked, nothing that could possibly be any more wicked than a female if she suffered the worst death in the Bible. Oh, barring Jesus, of course, who travailed and bled to bring forth his children into eternal life. Because that's what men do. Men do this. Yet the children have come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. You want to know why? Because there's too many Jezebels bowing to a male idol in the land, and they can't be bothered with the truth. They really can't. They'll sit there in their little dresses and go, he's coming to get us, instead of actually being bothered to study what the Old Testament tried to warn you against over and over again, and that was Baal worship. Idol worship, neither male nor female, it said. And the whole world, in just about every religion, is bowed to man. You got Muhammad, they're all bowed down at a man's feet. Judaism, well, it doesn't specify, they say they weren't supposed to call it a gender, and yet they do. Most of them do now. Israelite traditions identified Yahweh by scholarly convention pronounced Yahweh, the God of Israel, with the creator of the world, who had been known and worshipped from the beginning of time. Alright, well, we identified creator because maker, creator, and then, what's the other one? I forget the other one. But the creator, maker of the world, is actually identified as feminine. She creates children. What happened is the children got taken away from her when they removed her birthright, her inheritance from her. So, we see Baasha, okay, and the posterity of his house will make thy house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat. Him that dieth of Baasha in the city shall the dogs eat. Okay, so they love to go on about how the dogs licked the blood of Jezebel. Well, she got tossed out of a window first, so she might have actually died in that toss out the window, as opposed to her being ripped apart by the dogs. But this was long before she came into existence, long before Jezebel ever came into existence. She just happened to get the dirty name because the guy said, hey, we can really work this one. And baby, they've worked that angle of Jezebel every which way that they can work. And it's really, you should pay attention to Jezebel's history, because it leads you back to the men who were bringing in idol worship of Baal, husband as Lord and God. And if the women actually bothered to go in and study this truth, they might actually pick themselves up from the feet of that idol and follow the way of God, which was part of your rightful inheritance that the kings were working to remove from you. So let's go here and we'll show you how this all played out, at least some of it. So we'll go to 1 Kings 14 and we'll go to the prophecy of Jeroboam. Now understand, Jeroboam is where we met the key of David, where we understood what the key of David was. The key of David does belong to the daughters of Zion, and it is only through them being able or deciding to open the gates that you are released from the womb of Sheol. You're not released by no man. Man ain't God. This is just an idol. Jesus is an idol. And he came from the Old Testament. You were warned over and over and over. And Daniel 2 tells you of this warning. It's prophecy for the future. It's not a mistake that it's a male idol standing. It's no mistake that the Old Testament keeps harping away at Baal and idol worship. Baal means Lord of Dung. It's also another name for your husband. We'll look at that. So, 1 Kings 14:7. Go tell Jeroboam, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, for as much as I exalted thee from among the people and made thee prince over my people Israel, and rent the kingdom away from the house of David. That was through Solomon. They want to seem to dismiss Solomon in this particular passage, but Solomon is the reason why Jeroboam became what Jeroboam became. And we'll go in and we'll take a quick look at that too. And yet thou hast not been as my servant David, who kept my commandments and who followed me with all his heart, to do that only which was right in my eyes. It is the daughter of Zion talking here right now. And she's addressing Jeroboam, who had turned away from her way and was following after what Solomon was following after. And we know what Solomon was after. He was after building himself up as Lord and God. We see him exalting himself to her throne, daughter Zion's throne, the one that you blaspheme. The children have come to the birth, there is not strength to bring forth. The daughter of Zion has shaken her head at thee. Now that was when Hezekiah went out and petitioned to her, please don't let Sennacherib come in and take me out. Don't let him do it. And we discussed that in multiple videos. But Hezekiah was the one responsible for tearing all the female idol representations down. He tore everything that represented the feminine down. There is no mention of him ever tearing down the masculine representation, which is what this is all telling you about and testifying to. They left the male idol standing, which is why you get a male idol in Daniel 2 that has to come down out of the land. The snare they lay for the daughter of Zion to fall into, they have fallen into it, and they do not escape. That's men. That's the forefathers of these men, Baal. That's the forefathers of the men standing on the pulpit preaching Baal, the idol of Baal. They cannot, they're taught by a world system that has been weaved together by a web of lies that came originally from these wicked kings. And what did God say in the very beginning? You did not want me, you wanted a king. And then in the end we've got them, your king, your king, your king will come. God says you didn't want me, you wanted a king. Then we move to these kings doing everything in their power to build up a male and female idol, and then they tear the female one down and they leave the male one standing. This was all in their plan. They knew exactly what they were doing. And we know the law was held in her tongue. She was the one who had the inheritance. That was actually her rightful place of authority, her rightful inheritance, as is identified in the Old Testament with those who has the wisdom to understand, and actually the time. I mean, most won't give you the time of day. It won't actually take that much time because we've kind of done all the footwork for you. All you got to go do is go in and read these passages and reason them out for yourself what it's saying. I had the Spirit lead me over the last 15 years. And the Spirit really did pinpoint these verses. You know, I would flip and these would fall open. The Lord showed me the key of David. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And yes, I found the key of David in August of 2017. And I found the key and I knew I had it. And it wasn't until September that I fully received the key and completely got exactly what it was representing. So yeah, it was a special time frame for me. 2017, you can say there was a lot going on. Maybe there was. This was the most important for me. I found the key of David. So verse 7, 1 Kings 14, Go tell Jeroboam, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, For as much as I exalted thee from among the people, and made thee prince over my people Israel, and rent the kingdom away from the house of David, and gave it thee, yet thou hast not been as my servant David, who kept my commandments. Yea, that I may look upon the beauty of the Lord. Yeah, but that's a man. Who kept my commandment and who followed me with all his heart to do only which was right in mine eyes. The law came from the daughter of Zion, who sat between the cherubim that you find in 2 Kings 19. Might be 1 Kings 19, but I believe it is 2 Kings 19. But has done evil above all that were before thee. For thou hast gone and made thee other gods and molten images to provoke me to anger, and hast cast me behind thy back. Now, what we find Jeroboam doing, we looked at this. I'm sorry, it was a poor video. I will actually post a link to it, but it was a very poorly made video. Things get cemented more and more in your head, and you get better at handling the Word of God. You get better at handling the sword as God begins to shape that truth. The Holy Spirit begins to shape that truth within you. But you have to let the reins go to the true Holy Spirit. And sometimes you're going to pull on them reins. You're going to say, no, that's not right. You let the Holy Spirit lead you is what you do. But has done evil above all that was before thee, for that has gone and made other gods. So what I was driving at is, the other gods he made was these two molten calf images. And he set one up in the land of Ephraim and the other in the land of Dan, right? In the north kingdom, right? So this was where the true daughter of Zion actually come from. She flowed like the key of David into the house of Judah with the law of God. That was her rightful heirship. And we see the king's actually removing that heirship from her inheritance from her. And so he makes 2 idols. And he tells them, well, you can come worship at these altars. You don't have to go up to Judah's. This, understand, happens after they tore the female representation down. Hezekiah went up and he petitions to her and he says, please protect me from... And Sennacherib mocks him and he says, you go to this Lord, the one whose idols you tore down, her own representations, you don't even believe in her. And yet you're going to her to please save you from my hand. You who tore her idols down, her representation. We know there was to be no idol, neither male nor female. But it doesn't negate the fact that they actually tore the female one down, left the male one standing. So then we get Jeroboam actually making a representation of the male idol that was still represented in Judah. And so he makes these 2 calf idols, male. You changed your glory, it says in Psalm 106, to that which eateth grass. And they changed that glory by removing it off of the daughters of Israel, the wise women inside the nation, when the contamination break in upon them, Balaam, Ethbaal, and the contamination of the woman's seed was bowing to this idol of Baal as Lord and God, husband as Lord and God. They did not want to listen to her, you see, in her law. So, but he's done evil in her sight, and what does it say? Therefore, behold, I will bring evil upon the house of Jeroboam, and I will cut off from Jeroboam him that pisses against the wall, and him that is shut up and left in Israel, and I will take away the remnant of the house of Jeroboam, as a man taketh away, what does it say? Dung. Another name for Baal is your dung God. And God says in Malachi chapter 2, I will smear your face in dung when I spread you like dung for what you have done to my law. You see, it all takes you back to the dung God, Baal, which is another name for husband, the idol of your husband standing as your Lord and God. Be a good little Jezebel and worship him. Come on. Yeah, that's really why they keep hammering at Jezebel, though. It's really the reason why. Because it really does keep them bowed down at the feet of the idol. It really does. And him that is shut up and left in Israel, and I will take away the remnant of the house of Jeroboam, as a man taketh away dung, till it be all gone. Him that dieth of Jeroboam in the city shall the dogs eat, and him that dieth in the field shall the fowls of the air eat, for the Lord hath spoken it. See? So, now, what was going on with Jeroboam? How did Jeroboam get into this mix? Who is Jeroboam? Alright? When we go to 1 Kings, chapter 11, this was where we began to understand what the key of David was, at least personally for me. This particular title is at the break here at verse 26. And because I had been into a couple of other passages that would strongly link me to this one, it became very pivotal in the understanding what the key of David was. So verse 26, 1 Kings 11, and Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. He's also identified as the son of Nebat in 1 Kings 14. So we know it's the same man. And Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite. An Ephrathite. Look at that. Look at that. Of Ephratah, Solomon's servant. Now this is important because they bring in his widow mother. This is key in understanding, and we'll show you why. So, and Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, an Ephrathite of Ephratah, this is verse 26, 1 Kings 11, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he, Jeroboam, lifted up his hand against the king. So we bring in his mother, who was a widow woman. Why is that important? Watch. We'll bring it in a second. And this was the cause that he lifted up his hand against the king Solomon. Against the king. Solomon built Milo and repaired the breaches of the city of David his father. They weren't breaches. They weren't breaches. They were the gateways. They were the rightful gateways of the daughter of Zion that her righteous daughters flowed through as the key of David. He was getting in play the key of Solomon, the harlot spirit Jezebel that would bow at the feet of an idol of man as Lord and God and empower him to write the laws and take her rights and goods away from her from under the law. Yeah, and that's just what this tells us. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. Sorry, I can't talk. And the man Jeroboam was a mighty man of valor. And Solomon, seeing the young man that he was industrious, he made him ruler over all the charge of the house of Joseph. Ooh, sounds a lot like a bribe. Yeah. But, you know, after all, it just had to do with the widow women. That wasn't very important. How do we know this had to do with the widow women? And Jeroboam the son of Nebat, an Ephratah, a Zeruiah, Solomon's servant, whose mother's name was a Zeruiah, a widow woman, even he lifted up his hand against the king. So what are we told was so easy for the kings to do? When these men were in power, what are we told they began to do? Okay, so I'm in the wrong verse here. Go up. So what does it say? To those, Micah 2, woe to the oppressors who turns out to be kings, males, kings. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hands to do so. What did we see King Solomon doing over here? He was repairing the breaches, wasn't he? He also repaired Milo, it states. We're going to look at Milo in a minute, in a quick minute. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. That's the kings, because it's in their power to do so. And they covet fields, and they take them by violence, and houses, and they take them away. So they oppress not a man, it was the women. A woman and her house, even a woman and her inheritance. That's right. That's exactly what they were doing. And we scroll down here. You know what else it says? I gotta find it here. In that day one will take up a taunt against you and lament mournfully. We are totally ruined. He measures out the allotted land of my people, the daughters, and he removes them from them. He lots our fields to a traitor. Now here, over here in the King James, it says, he changed the portion of my people. That's the portion in the midst. The, what's it called? The flock of, I forget the flock in the midst, what it's called. Oh, I can't remember. I'm sorry. But the flock in the midst has a particular name. Let me go in. It's right here. I'm sorry. I'm taking longer than I intended to. Portion. It should be... Let me see. Element of portion. The flock of... Oh, I cannot remember it. Oh, that makes me mad. The flock of... Because I'm messing with Baasha. Now I can't remember the flock in the midst. That he changed the portion. Anyway, he changes the portion from the righteous daughters, the key of David. And we don't mean that David had the right to marry as many as he wanted. He did not. It's 1 and 1. Plain and simple. And so he changes the portion in the midst from a righteous spirit, the key of David, to a harlot spirit, the key of Solomon, which is akin to the Jezebel spirit bowed at the feet of Baal, the idol. And this is what this all tells you in the Old Testament. And this is what we're walking in today. And it says, how he has changed the portion of my people, how hath he removed it from me, turning away. He has what? He has divided our field. What did God say? You split my pleasant land. And it was beginning with Solomon. He split the pleasant land into 2 covenants. A harlot that bowed to man as if he was Lord and God, that he was bringing in from the surrounding Adamic nations. Watch what he does in 1 Kings. Is it 1 Kings? Yeah, 1 Kings 9:24. This is what he does. And he was bringing her up into the palace that he had made after he had attacked the daughters of Israel, the daughters of the north kingdom, the daughters of Zion, who had the rightful birthright and inheritance of these houses. That's right, these widow women that Solomon went after. But what does King Solomon does? 1 Kings 9:24. After Pharaoh's daughter had come up from the city of David to the palace Solomon had built. That should have been the house in the forest of Lebanon, where the government of God met the righteous daughters of Zion. That was their inheritance and their law. The law of Israel was to come from their tongue, not from a man's tongue. And he constructed the terraces. Watch this again. We'll read it again. 1 Kings 9:24. After Pharaoh's daughter had come up from the city of David to the palace that Solomon had built for her. This is the changing over from the righteous to the harlot. He constructed the terraces. What's the definition of terraces? Definition of terrace. Oh, I had it here. Where is it? Do not tell me it's down. Nope. Okay, so we'll just do it right quick. This is the definition. Make or form into a number of level flat areas resembling, watch this, a series of steps. What does that make you think of? Well, it was a step stepping up, but it was like a nod, wasn't it, to Pharaoh's daughter? Like a pyramid, maybe. Like a capstone in its appearance. He changed the portion in the midst to a harlot spirit that bowed to man as Lord and God. Baal, your idol worship. Now, where else are we heading? So we see Solomon do that. We also, see, where's my friggin' Wikipedia here? That's gone too. So I had Wikipedia Milo pulled up. It tells you what it is in Wikipedia, this Milo, and when it got discovered. See, it's gone, so we'll pull it up right quick. So the most common assumption among archaeologists and historians of ancient Israel is that Milo is the stepped stone structure that was uncovered by Kathleen Kenyon and demonstrated by Eilat Mazar to be connected to a larger stone structure, which she discovered in 2005. That would have been the palace, right? It's a stepping stone. But we saw Hezekiah and Solomon both being responsible for the tearing down of the rightful inheritance of these daughters. And we find that in Isaiah 22 in connection to the key of David. And we saw him going in and tearing down. It says it was a distressing day for the Lord. And the Lord number there is 136, which we identified as the dove that had been burned to ashes, surrounded by her actual assembly of these women, this village of women, in Psalm 68, with anybody who's got the brain to reason with or the desire to seek for the deeper truth. So if you want to pull up on Wikipedia Milo, you'll learn a lot too. But here we have him actually changing the portion in the midst. And in Micah 2, we have him doing it. He split, and then he also changed the water, the flow of the water. And the water was representing her law, her word, is what it was doing. And we see him actually doing that in Isaiah 22. So we discussed that as well. But what does it say here? If I can... You see, I had it. Where is it? Okay, I am in Micah 2. It says, you take it from my... I'll go up. I'm just looking for it. Okay, well, is it possible I read that in a different passage? Okay. So it's actually, it comes right out and tells you. Yeah, okay, so it is. Micah 2 verse 9, you force the women of my people out of their comfortable homes, and you take my blessing from their children forever by taking it from them. They were removing their inheritance from them, their rightful birthright, which was the right to make the law. They gathered in the house in the forest of Lebanon, which was identified as a palace. Yeah. It's identified as a great palace where the assembly, identified as a village of women in Psalm 68, they would meet together on the north mountain where Satan, Adam, man, Solomon, it's told us in Ezekiel 28, he's the only one wiser than Daniel. And he's actually in Tyrus in that location in Ezekiel 28. That's why we know he exalted himself to the throne of God on the north mountain, identified as the house in the forest of Lebanon, where these women met, and it was their rightful birthright to decree the law in Israel. And it got removed by a series of kings bringing in idol worship of Baasha that they love to bring Jezebel into so much. But you see, Jezebel was raised right up into the religion because her father was Baasha, you see. And her so she had no chance. She had no chance. It was a generational curse, really, for her. But you know, if we keep leading on, if we go into Jeremiah 9, it tells us what they were doing to the houses. Oh, that my head were waters and mine eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. It was the daughters they were going after. The kings were going after the daughters because the power, it was in their hands to do so, to tear their rightful inheritance away from them. And then you got men going, oh, she just wants me for my money. No, you just wanted me for my money. You took my rights away from me. You took my goods away from me. You took my rights as a person away from me under the rights of the law that should have rightfully come off of her tongue. That is what it testifies to over and over again. But you got to get it in that little thread of water, which is symbolic of the little book of truth that the seven thunders will utter, that then you will have no excuse to say, well, I didn't know, when you just simply turn your eyes and your ears and say, I don't want to hear it. You're called a fool when you do that. That's what you're called. So, oh, that I had in the wilderness a lodging place of wayfaring men, that I might leave my people and go from them, for they be all adulterers. Adulterers? The seed of the sorceress, they all be the sons of adulterers and whorers. Yeah, and that's just what they were. They were Baal worshippers, idol worshippers, husband as Lord and God. And they bend their tongue. That's your tongue is your sword, but your bow, like their bow, that's your covenant, for lies. But they are not valiant for the truth upon the earth. Not when they've got these foolish dreams that they're prophesying. Jesus and Father, Jesus and Father. God says, you won't even know me. Well, how come you know Jesus and Father? The true God you don't know. Because she turned her back on us and said, you'll find out what your latter end will be when you bow down to idols. You'll find out what happens. But they are not valiant for the truth upon the earth, for they proceed from evil to evil, from generation to generation. And they know not me. It's been taught to you. Take ye heed every one of his neighbor, that's his sister. She flowed like a living key, like the key of David from the north kingdom. That's right. And that is where Lebanon, the house in the forest, according to what I understand, each tribe, each location had their own temple, government-like temple, I would think, in many cases, where the daughters would meet in each of their own respective tribes. Then from there they had a larger place where they would go up to Judah, the territory of Judah, which is why they each had houses that they would go to. And then they would go up into this larger house in the forest of Lebanon. And there they would give the law, or they would hand it out. So, take ye heed every one of his neighbor, and trust ye not in any brother. For every brother will utterly supplant you, and every neighbor will walk with slanders. Well, that was the dividing of the covenant. That's what we see. You divided my pleasant land. And he began to bring in his wicked queens that would support him in his lie, and build Baal up as God. And they began to prophesy this lie. And they will deceive everyone his neighbor, and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongue to speak lies, and weary themselves to commit iniquity. Thine habitation is in the midst of deceit. So the daughter of Israel's habitation had become in the midst of deceit. Again, it takes us back to Isaiah 22. It was a day of turmoil for her, for the casting down of the daughters. So through the deceit, they refused to know me, and they did not want to know that it was her law come off of her tongue, and she gave from the heavenlies. We're told that in Job 30 or 31 verse 1. Why then should I look upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? The inheritance of the Almighty from on high. So she was identified as a spirit from the beginning that came from on high with the law of God, and they rejected her. Through their deceit they refused to know me, saith the Lord. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, I will melt them and try them, for how shall I do for the daughter of my people? They were killing the daughters, they were murdering them, because out of jealousy, out of spite. It was in the power of the men's hands to do it, because they had appointed themselves as kings and rulers. God says, you didn't want me, you wanted a king, and I'll destroy your king. Their tongue is as an arrow shot out, it speaketh deceit, one speaketh peaceably to his neighbor. Oh, the good pretenders. With his mouth, but in his heart he layeth in wait. And they did. We find that in Micah 2. They were ripping the garments off. They were ripping the robes off with the garment. That was these daughters who had been appointed to meet in the house in the forest of Lebanon as the government of God. They were actually as men at war, as stated in Micah 2. So, shall I not visit them for these things, saith the Lord? Shall not my soul be avenged on such a nation as this, of wicked idol worshippers who tore down her house? So, for the mountains will I take up a weeping and wailing, and for the habitation of wilderness a lamentation, because they are burned up, so that none can pass through them, neither can men hear the voice of the cattle. Both the fowl of the heaven and the beasts are fled, they are gone, and I will make Jerusalem a heap of dogs. Let's go down here, because this is where we want to go. Right here. Yeah. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will feed them, even this people, with wormwood, and give them water of gall to drink. So wormwood is your poisoned law system. Yeah. We also see the scorpion poison, right? Stinging her heel is actually what happened. And she stumbled in that poison of idol worship. But the true daughters actually get up from that, according to that. And they do obtain what they seek for, is the restoration of their children back to her covenant, which is her law system, not his. And give them water of gall to drink, bitterness, right? We speak of the myrrh, that's always in association with the women who had to drink down the bitterness in the law system. It really come upon their head. It removed them as people. It removed rights from her. She had none. It removed her goods completely from her, stacking it all on him, because he was a being under the law of man, but she wasn't, right? So, thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider ye and call for the mourning women, that they may come, and send for the cunning women, there's your wise women, that they were destroying. And let them make haste, and take up a wailing for us, that our eyes may run down with tears, and our eyelids gush out with waters. For a voice of wailing is heard out of Zion. How are we spoiled? We are greatly confounded, because we have forsaken the land. Why did they forsake the land? Because our dwellings have cast us out, and we see Solomon tearing them down. We also see God saying in Ezekiel, Pharaoh, you muddied my waters. And we are in the land of Egypt. We are in the land of idol worship. We are still worshiping the solar calf deity, but it just has changed its name to Baal and then to husband as Lord and God and Creator, who travailed and bled to bring forth his children in death. It wasn't her. She was not the foundation stone rejected, the righteous daughters who gave equal rights to all under her law. No, that's not it. It's him. And the Jezebaals bowed down at his feet, saying, "How dare you women think we're equal? How dare you? You're the problem." But you know what? Hers wasn't the worst death in the Bible. Apparently, there was a series of them. So, yet hear the word of the Lord, O ye women, and let your ear receive the word of not his mouth, your mother's mouth. You are made in the image of your mother, not your father. And teach your daughters wailing, and everyone her neighbor lamentation. For death has come up into our windows and has entered into our palaces. That's right. Our palace got destroyed. We find that palace in reconstruction in Song of Songs chapter 8. And it ain't King of Solomon in love with a Shulamite either. A king with 800 wives or 700 wives and 300 concubines wouldn't know what the meaning of the word love is. He does, however, know what power, wanting power, is all about. And he enabled himself in so many ways to give himself all of this power. So we know Jezebel was cast out a window. It doesn't give me the chapter here. Where she was cast out. It would be somewhere in the 1 Kings section, along with Ahab, her hubby, who she was building up again. He wanted things, and she'd go get them for him and hand them to him because she was building him up, you know. And Ahab brought Baal, and I say Baasha was Jezebel's father. Jezebel's father was Ethbaal, or Ethbaal. B-A-A-L is how it ends. So we know that she came from a house of idol worshippers, and that her father was a serious worshiper of man as Lord and God. And so she had been raised up in this household, Jezebel did, by men, such as the men on the pulpit who actually preach us against her. She was doing exactly what all men want, women to bow to a man as God. That's exactly what she was guilty of. Isaiah 54:1, and we know that she becomes the desolate spirit that no children are listening to. They're hearkening to the law of man, the man God, Jesus. He wrote it. Man writes it. Man allots himself all kinds of goods under that law. He steals hers from her. He allots himself all kinds of rights as if he's a person and she's not, because he tore her house down. There were 2 tabernacles in existence, the house in the forest of Lebanon and then his temple. Yeah, but he saw fit to tear hers down, much like the idol, right, of her. So it's not that his idol should be not that her idol should be stand next to her. It's that neither idol were supposed to be there. You were to have neither male nor female before me. I told you to follow my way, the commandments of God, which was to come off of the wise women's tongue. Now that's all identified. And if you don't want to hear it, then that comes really down upon your head. All right? Not on our head. The adversary in the land is the harlot spirit bound to an idol as if he's Lord and God. That stone in Daniel 2 cut out without hands is these daughters risen up out of the dust of the earth, away from an idol who says he's better than you and smashes the toes on it. It is the New Testament as the feet. We identified as Jesus the feet that keeps the idol standing. We get the wife identified in 54:1. Sing, barren woman, you who never bore a child. That's right. You know what it means to bear a child? It means they're hearkening to your spirit, to the spirit of your law. And they're not. They're hearkening to man's law, a made-up religious law. Burst into song. Shout for joy, you who was never in labor, because more are the children of the desolate spirit. The abomination of desolation is a man inside of a man, worshiping a man. He's in love with himself. This is where the abominations of the world actually is identified as coming from man in love with man. That creates the abomination of desolation, which is why we are led to her who never bore a child, because more are the children of the desolate woman than of her who has a husband. Who has a husband? Baal. Her name is Baal here. Look it up. I'm sorry. It's probably going to come up loud. I get intense on this. It just makes me so mad. People who says they're such reasonable human beings aren't reasonable at all. They don't make an ounce of sense. God made us in God's image. That's male and female. That doesn't mean a man, he made us. That's the lie in the land. You're worshiping Baal. But what's the name for the wife? The wife's name is 1166. Baal. Now understand, when you go into interlinear, they're going to go Beulah. Hit on it. It's not Beulah. Beulah is important but I'm starting to see what a lie that is. Baal 1166. This is the wife here. Baal 1166. Oh honey, you're my head. You have to tell me what to do. I can't use this one. It's female. Your male head on my female body. We don't see that ritual in play right now, just like we did in the old cults of the Old Testament, do we? No, we don't see that playing out. 1166 Baal. To marry, to rule over. Yeah. It's a woman who will spout back all his religious doctrine that he wrote. Husband, married, ruled. Yeah. That's the name of the married wife here. But she's not supposed to be worshiping Baal, husband. I will remove the name of Baal off of your tongue. He is not your Lord and Master. He never was. The law was to come from her tongue. We see them destroying the key of David. We do. We see them actually destroying her house. We see them taking her rightful inheritance from her. And let's just read this right quick so we get a little bit of a better understanding. We identified that these women met in the house in the forest of Lebanon. And this is what they were doing. Right here, verse 8. They'll tell you it's men ripping garments off of other men. No, it's men ripping them off of women who were going to their rightful inheritance into the house in the forest of Lebanon, where they would govern and write the laws. It was the law that was their inheritance. And man turned on her. Yeah, that was the original foundation stone. Rejected her for a him. Her first coming was in the very beginning, and they rejected her law. Her final end, her second coming, is when these daughters are reborn out of the dust of the earth to teach you the truth with their wisdom. If you should reject that, then the Lord's wrath really does play out. We also see the day of the Lord playing out in a gradual manner. And then we get the total fulfillment of it, which plays out in a much shorter period of time. I think is kind of how it plays. So verse 7, Micah 2. O thou that art named the house of, not Jacob, Israel. Jacob stole her name. We see him wrestling the presence of God. The presence of God was called the camp of Mahanaim. It's a double camp. You also see them with the Shulamite. They also go by other names such as the she-goat, which then becomes why the Genesis 15:9 covenant is so important. They're identified as the lilies of the covenant. David has a few psalms concerning the lilies of the covenant. It's very important that you understand that. They're also called the daughters of Zion. They're also called the camp of Mahanaim, or the camp of God, or the presence of God on earth. And it was these women. Yeah. Not men. Women. He wrestled with a female here. You understand, when you take women's right away, you take her power from her as well. Yeah. So it's all ritualistic in a lot of ways. When we become equal, we actually show an equal ability under that law in many ways. So while there may be strength in one sense, she simply was a better a better fighter anyway. In the sense of strategic, you've got to become very strategic in the way that you think about things, in the way that you attack them. Which is why she was considered the Lord of the kingdom, the sovereign Lord. You have to understand the law. You have to be wise in that. In all of that, you are empowered in a ritualistic sense with a power that we don't fully comprehend. So, O thou that art named the house of not Jacob, they were called the house of Israel. That was her name. Is the Spirit of the Lord straitened? Are these her doings? Do not my words do good to her that walketh uprightly? No, 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 no. The law ain't for you women. Not after they tore your house down and you let them do it. Verse 8. Even of late, I think it should be written, my sons is risen up as an enemy. Ye pull off the robe with the garment from my daughters that pass by securely, as if you are men averse from war, or you are like men returning from a war. And the women of my people have ye cast out of their pleasant houses, and from their children have ye taken away my glory forever. Why? What were they doing? Verse 1, we see King Solomon doing this. This is the key of David in play. For anybody that can reason, anybody that the truth really matters to, and not listening to the forefathers of, or the generations that come from the forefather Baal, yeah, and Belial off the pulpit teaching their ridiculous notions of who God is. This is reasoning out. It's going to reason out, and you're going to desire to study it for yourself, and they are key passages. You don't have to study the whole Bible. That's why it's called a little book sealed up. But what does it say in Micah 2? Woe to the oppressors, to those who think they're never going to get caught by the witness, which is what it says in Isaiah 28. Oh, with the womb of Sheol, these women who bowed to men as if he's Lord and God, are we at agreement? When the overflowing scourge, when the judgment comes in, they're not going to touch us, because they have no witnesses of the Holy Spirit in the land that can testify to what we did. That's what that means. So, woe to them that devise iniquity and works evil upon their beds when the morning is light. They practice it because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet the women's fields, and take them by violence in houses, and take them away. So they oppress a woman and her house, even a woman and her inheritance. You understand, when the men of Baal got control of the word, they had to remove she out of it and stick a man in there. He. They had to. But the snare they lay for us to fall into, you see, the witnesses of the Holy Spirit. The snare they lay for us to fall into, they have fallen into it, and they do not escape. That pride, that's the pride of Adam, the pride of Satan. We linked Satan. Just go to Beelzebub in the New Testament. Baal, it'll lead you back to Baal. Beelzebub was another name for Satan, Lord of the demons. Satan, devil. And Baal means husband. And what was Satan though? Oh, he's Satan the accuser. Oh, what did Adam do in the garden? He accused her of being his harlot. That's what she says, they lay accusations against me, and I don't even know where they're getting them from. Right? She has shaken her head at thee. That's what it says in 2 Kings 19. Also, I believe in Isaiah 37. And the children have come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. You women are responsible for birthing these children with the truth. And that truth was to be rested upon the law that came off of the wise women's tongues that were gave to man in covenant to teach them the law of heaven. And they rejected the foundation stone for a harlot spirit that bowed to Baal. Yeah. You know, no. Don't make an ounce of sense. Sure it does. Anyway, there's my supposed short video. It's a lot longer than I intended it. Hopefully I'll get this video uploaded this afternoon. I gotta go. I pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth, with her waters of truth, with her true covenant. Not with a lie of men off the pulpit teaching man as God, Baal is God. That tickles their ears. honey on their tongue, but it's wormwood in the gut. It is killing us all. You're the one, the daughters have had to drink the bitterness. Mara. Yeah. Because it all come down on your head. Because it says they wanted a king. You didn't want me. That's what she says. You didn't want the daughter. You wanted the king. Anyway, thanks for watching. I pray y'all have a lovely day, and thanks again.